November 30th, 2022, that was when ChatGPT was open up to the world. And that was the day that everything changed. AI is gonna replace all coaches. I just hated my business. I don't know, I just hated it. Definitely scaled too quickly at one point. It was really hard for me to manage.
What's your relationship like with AI?
And I think AI is fantastic for business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are willing to use it to empower them.
You shared about the tasks that you can just hand off and someone else could do it, like a robot could do it. What would be those specific tasks that you noticed that most business owners could actually hand those tasks off? And then also with that, what tools would you recommend for each of those tasks?
There's endless things.
Lauren Tickner is a global authority on AI-powered content systems and high-figure client acquisition. Lauren scaled 3 7-figure businesses by the age of 28. She's interviewed the likes of Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, and Dean Graziosi on her podcast. And she's now the founder of The Scale Systems. She's helped coaches and consultants generate over 100 million in revenue, serving over 8,800 experts and building a digital blueprint of over 500,000 followers. Her message is simple, and in today's day and age, it's around AI. She shares that AI isn't here to take your job, it's here to take your workload. The people who learn how to partner with it will rise. The ones who resist it will be left behind. So listen in to today's episode and let this code activate something deep within. Enjoy. So we'll start with, as someone who by the age of 28, you scaled 3 7-figure businesses. I'm curious, what is your relationship like with money?
So I had a bit of an existential crisis with this question, because I feel like when you hit a certain goal that maybe you thought was your goal for a really long time, and then you hit it and you hear all these stories of these founders that have sold their businesses, or people that have hit their goals or whatever, and they're like, oh, you don't feel anything. And you think in your head, nah, that can't be true. I need to go and do it myself to prove that it's not true. Yeah, I mean, I had the same experience for sure. And I realized that in the end, your only purpose can't just be to grow your business, to scale your business, because that was my singular focus for a really, really long time. And so I have been having this internal crisis over the last 2 years of basically figuring out what is my purpose and what is meaning, right? And you start to ask yourself these really deep questions of what's the meaning of life? And Tim Ferriss has some really good content on this, because I think he had a similar experience too from what he has said. And the thing that he said was, if you start asking yourself question what is the meaning of life, or what's the point of this all? When you ask those questions, you have to define every word inside of the question. So if you start asking what's the meaning of life, you have to define what's the meaning of life, every single one of those words. And so I realized, you know what? Asking myself these questions is a complete waste of time. So in the end, okay, what is money, right? Well, it's pretty simple. It's a way that you can trade something to get something else. And so in the end, I just started optimizing for what I really want. Because for so many years, I didn't optimize for what I really wanted. And I had some friends tell me wow, Lauren, you are very selfless. And I was like, what do you mean by that? They're like, well, you're so willing to go through so much pain for your business. And I was like, damn, that's so true. Because I would just destroy myself working, work so hard and just for the business. And then it's well, why do I even want this business anyway? The business is meant to be there really. I mean, in the end, the definition is to provide a profit for the shareholders, okay? And so simply put, if that's the goal, then, well, I've reached a certain point where I don't necessarily need to do that anymore. So coming back to the initial question that you asked, yeah, it's been trying to figure out why am I doing this, right? What's the drive? And I haven't necessarily found the answer to that question.
Well, thanks for your honesty there and openness. And it's it's an interesting question to start with. And then also now your transition's gone through to AI, right? So again, we'll ask that same question, what's your relationship like with AI?
I mean, I think AI is fantastic for business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are willing to use it to empower them. And I'm seeing that team members of mine who I previously was oh, I don't know how good they are or whatever, seeing them learn to use it and just exponentially improve the way that they work and the results that they're able to bring for the company has been really, really cool. For me personally, I think that, of course, there's going to be people are always saying like, oh, AI is going to replace all coaches and AI is going to be the thing that puts so many people out of their jobs. And I think it's true, definitely. But it's not just as black and white as that. If it replaces a coach, then something has to, then that coach is then freed up maybe to do something else. Or maybe they're able to leverage it to improve the client results. So I'm really seeing it right now as a way that we can get rid of the robot work, because that's the work, maybe like replying to emails and doing onboarding of clients and things like that. But that's like the hands work, right? When there we have the face work, which is like, speaking to the client, having the relationship, like rendezvousing your client, like wooing them or whatever, and having this conversations. Like, so I'm seeing like, okay, if I can get the robot work off my plate, and then I'm able to then do that, face work and do more of that, bring more people together, right? Do more webinars or just live life. Okay. I think it's a really great opportunity, but I think it's we're only able to take advantage of it if we're not afraid of it, right? First of all, because I'm seeing so many people so afraid of it, but also learn it. So going back to the question that you asked in the beginning, like I came to this realization, like, well, I don't necessarily need to make more money. It's not the goal anymore. So then what's the purpose as I went through? And I realized like, well, I have time. I don't need to press as hard as I was previously, like always on my laptop all the time. So instead, like, let's stop scheduling more calls. Let's stop taking up more opportunities and just stop, right? And so I just started saying no to everything, like quite literally everything. So if a year ago you'd have said to me, let's do a podcast, I would have just been like, no, because I just wasn't doing them. And so I basically had like a copy and paste response for anything. I also gave it to my assistant, nothing. So of course I lost opportunities there, but I freed up so much time to learn and to study AI, right? And I genuinely think that just a few hours a day, not even every day, right? A few hours, a few times a week has really given me the skills that I need in order to leverage it and use it and to show other people how they can use it too. And it frees up so much of your time, So I think it's one of the biggest possible opportunities that we have right now. And if you look at any of these big tech leaders, right? Like they say that it's even a bigger thing than when the internet first came. And just look at how the internet changed the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you shared there about the task that you can just almost like hand off and someone else could do it, like a robot could do it. Like what would be those specific tasks that you notice that most business owners could actually hand those tasks off if they just kind of like release that need to do it themselves? And then also with that, like what tools would you recommend for each of those tasks?
Okay, so I remember so vividly a few years ago, I was having a sports massage in Dubai, and he's become a really good friend of mine, this guy, Toby. He was like always on his phone. I was like, dude, like, what are you doing on there? He's like, oh, just scheduling my next clients. I was like, you're scheduling clients by texting them. And he didn't even know that you could have a calendar to schedule clients. Okay. And I think it's the same thing with AI right now for business owners. There's endless things that it could do. Endless things. For example, replying to leads. Okay. Having a conversation with a lead and then scoring that lead to decide if a human should jump in, if it should go to a setter, if it should go to you, if it should go to a freebie, right? You can literally do that inside of high level, as an example, okay? Other things, for example, building websites, building funnels, right? Again, you can just do that at literally the click of a button now. There are so many different tools that do it. I mean, I use high level. I like it, but it's just crazy. And so the major things, and what I would literally do if I was new to AI, is and people hate doing this, and I learned this from a mentor of mine called Alex Sharfin, and I hated doing it the first time too, but I would encourage anyone who's serious about freeing their time to do this. Go through your week with a little notebook with you at all times, and every 30 minutes, write down what you're doing. Just write it down. So right now, as you're listening to this, maybe you're walking outside, maybe you're doing some cardio, maybe you're cooking, right? Whatever you're doing, you just write it down for every 30 minutes. And then what you do at the end of the week is you'll find where, like, usually for most business owners, 40 to maybe even up to 80% of their time goes to just a couple of very specific things. Maybe it's coaching calls with clients, maybe it's client onboarding, maybe it's email recaps, right? Maybe it's recording content, whatever it happens to be. That is where you should start. That's where you can find the biggest unlock for yourself, because you can see where the majority of your time is going. And it's amazing because you can probably find an AI tool to do anything that you want, quite literally. So for me, one of the major things was client communication. And so I got somebody on my team that essentially does all the client communication. And so my previous solution was that she takes it on so that like I didn't have to do it, right? So that was great. And that worked for many, many years. But now, how can I empower her, right? And so basically I challenged her to get every single client recap done with AI. So with a tool like make.com, right, you can build a workflow whereby a call recording basically, booms into the workflow. The workflow then has a prompt that it uses to then create an email. And the email can either be like automatically sent to the client via Gmail or so on and so forth, or it lands back on your desk to review it. So for example, with her, she doesn't have the workflow like automatically send it out. She reviews it as well because for me, at least right now, I still want to have a bit of like oversight onto that. Maybe she can add some banter there, some, communication that the AI would otherwise not do. And so that's how we're also able to make it seem, really personalized, because you don't need to create an email from scratch. But if you add a little bit of like unique flair to it, then no one knows that it's written by AI. But if they did, who cares, right? It doesn't really matter. So I just really encourage my team to like be aware if something looks AI to then un-AI it.
Yeah. Like it's quite, there's some obvious pieces, like the big dashes have suddenly come in everywhere on
the M dashes.
Yeah.
I made a thread, on threads, right? Like Instagram threads. I made a thread being like, with those clapping emojis, like remove the M dash, otherwise everyone knows it was created by ChatGPT. And I had thousands, like I'm not even exaggerating, thousands of authors responding to me saying like, I used the M dashes before it was a thing. People were saying like, I need to cancel you because you think M dashes are bad. But let's be real, if you use those double dashes, obviously ChatGPT wrote it.
Yeah, that's your actual like legitimate writer who's like, you've been doing it for years. It's like, yeah, if you see it just on a random caption, it's like, yeah, come on.
So I what I do is if I'm copying and pasting, first of all, I've told ChatGPT don't add them, into my custom GPT. That's the first thing, which actually makes it not do it. But if ever I'm using another tool or for some reason I've got those M dashes there, I just go Command F on Google, right? And I go on that like replace all thing. You can do that on Google, and then I just put a comma instead. That's my solution.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got one of the tools there, which you spoke about, how they take the voice recording and then go through that workflow.
Yeah, make.com. You can also, any AI note taker can do that. We actually use just Google, right? Because we have our calls on Google Meet. And then Gemini then auto pulls that into like a make.com workflow. And then it takes the transcript. And then from the transcript, it then has a prompt, which then extracts like the recap and the action items from the transcript of the call. And it puts it into like an email template format that we've got based upon the prompt.
Nice.
It's very simple, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, actually, I use something like Read.ai. That's awesome, that tool. We use that for coaching calls.
Yeah.
And it like gives you, after the call, like tells you the feedback.
Yeah.
Like coaching feedback.
Yeah.
Say like, oh, the client was engaged this percentage. All right, like there was this amount of like interaction. It gives you like the coaching tips and the overview. It's like so incredible.
Crazy.
Like just that piece. But yeah, I'm curious, like what other areas do you see as for the business owner, like these tasks that can easily just be handed off, like almost like the fast wins that they can do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think with AI, if you're already good at something, all you're doing is just automating something that you're already good at. Where I see business owners or just people in general get in trouble is if they use AI to do something they're not already good at. So I see this all the time on social media. Like that's the one where you can either do really well with AI or really, really badly. Because if you don't already know how to create good content that gets reach or leads or clients, or whatever the purpose is that you have with that content, you're essentially automating something bad. So something I always say to people is like, your current content got you your current results. Are you happy with your current results? And then if they're like, yes, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's now AIify that. If you're like, no, then it's okay. Well, we need to improve the strategy first. And then from there, you can then put AI in place. Okay. I mean, content is a huge one, of course, but like you don't want to automate something that isn't working.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when people spend money on ads on an offer that hasn't been proven or an offer that doesn't convert, right? If your landing page conversion rate is 5%, why are you going to spend 10K a month on the ads? No, you're not going to do that. You're going to fix the landing page first. So I always think like first strategy. And then I think, okay, if the strategy is getting the outcome that you want within the KPIs that you want, then from there, you can, put AI in place. So content is one where you can add it. Sales call reviews, you were just referring to it there, right? So if you're a company that takes sales calls, there's it's so easy to literally just grab the transcript and even just with a prompt in Gemini or ChatGPT or even Claude, whatever, to review that sales call, give it a ranking out of 10, and so then you can very easily save yourself hours a week. I mean, I remember like in the past when I was running a pretty big sales team, I would spend 20, 30 hours a week just reviewing sales calls. Crazy. So now you just review the first 10 seconds, see if their tonality is good, put it into the AI and see what score it gives it. And if it's below a 7, okay, maybe you want to then see where the AI flagged the timestamp that you need to actually pay attention to it. But a lot of this comes down to, in my opinion, like as a business owner, playing around with the AI, like carving out time for it, because what is going to be relevant for you would be relevant for somebody else, right? It's going to be irrelevant for them, sorry. And like for me, it's going to be a different thing than someone else too. And so I think it really comes down to like your business and what the functions are that you're running in your company. That's going to depend upon what AI tools you're going to use.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, just to like unpick some of the like core beliefs then of why a business owner wouldn't want to go there. Let's talk about like the fears. Like one of the typical fears may be, oh yeah, well, AI is just going to take over. I'm going to lose like a personal touch inside of my business. Like if I'm just AI-ifying everything. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, so over the last 10 years, I cannot even count how many consultants and coaches I've worked with. I mean, it's in the thousands. And the thing that we always notice when we get them to do something like a time study or to, tell us just one-on-one, like what's taking the most of their time, it is what we call robot work. So robot work is things like sending emails, scheduling calls, sending DMs, things which could very easily be done by a robot, right? So I just think that if you begin to realize that if your time isn't spent on robot work, you can then build a better relationship with your clients or have better conversations, one-to-many conversations via webinars or one-on-one conversations on sales, right? You then are able to free up so much of that energy, not just the time, but also the energy to then really give back to your clients. So like, for example, for me right now, right, I have no business doing this, but I'm currently right now essentially building a brand new course for my clients. Why? Because I have so much time, right? I just don't really know what else to do with myself. So then I have more time now to put into that, which I wouldn't have otherwise done if I'd have had to have been doing all the previous stuff that I was doing before. But because we've now been able to quite literally automate, like I couldn't tell you what percentage, but a vast majority of the business now, because we've been able to automate it, now I'm able to do more stuff that is going to help and benefit the clients even more. And so I think the problem is that if as a coach or as a consultant, right, you don't actually begin to lean into AI, your competitors are going to. And so what's going to happen is now it's no longer a competition on information, right? Information has been commoditized. You can go open ChatGPT or whatever, even just Google, right? Gemini is going to pop up there with a nice answer for you. May not be correct, but there's certainly going to be information there. And as a consumer, you have to then think for yourself and ask, is this accurate, right? Should I do more digging here? Should I run a deep research? Should I go and compare some sources? Should I go and open up my friend's phone and ask the same question because they're going to get a different answer to you, right? But most consumers aren't thinking that way. So if you think from the lens of like the client, right, they're going to open up Google, they're going to get the information. But nowadays, it's no longer a competition for information, right? The major currency now and how we used to make our money was we knew something the client did not, and then we sold the gap between the two.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the case. Now, we're competing on authority. Who can get the attention? It's an attention game now. But not just an attention for attention's sake, because if you think about, famous TikTokers or viral people, we don't remember that. But instead, it's more about who's actually got authority, who then we're paying attention to. So, for example, if someone in your space, right, has automated a lot of their business, they have more time now to put to content. They have more time to put to building more webinars, more podcasts, right? Getting around people who are going to increase their authority or doing actions that are going to increase their authority. So I think when we just look at it from the lens of like, what can you do with your time once you've got your time back? That's when it gets very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting lens too of like the actual information age. Switch into the new age. I would say like the new age too, that looking at it through a lens of like the implementation and like transformation in a way. I mean, that's the podcast, transformation code, but it's like actually how can someone take the information that they're learning and actually apply it? Because like there's so much information out there now, and yeah, you can just go to ChatGPT and go online and like information overload. If anything, it's more around how do you digest that information and then actually embody the areas that you wish to actually use inside of your business. Like if you want to be a world-class coach, actually like learning the information around that, but like realizing like these are the pieces and then learning how to actually implement. So it's like the information, it's an interesting lens to look it through. It's like we're in a new age now.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's like, as soon as information is no longer the thing that we compete on, we have to realize that we're competing on something else. But I'm noticing that consultants who've been doing it for 20 years, 20 plus years, right? Coaches who've been doing it 10 plus years, right? They are failing to understand that the times have changed and the information age, as I call it too, is done. Is done. And so I can see it very clearly happening because we're noticing that there are some people who are just kind of putting their head in the sand, right? Like they're burying their head in the sand and failing to admit that this is happening. But November 30th, 2022, that was when ChatGPT was open up to the world. And that was the day that everything changed.
Yeah.
And so if you refuse to admit that happened, then you're just living in a false reality. And so there's always a gap between the truth and the narrative. And we see this in politics, we see this in marketing, right? So the truth is the reality. That's what's actually happening. But the narrative is this story. And that could be a story that somebody else is telling you. That can be a story that you've made up in your head. That could be a story based upon your beliefs and your values. But if you live in a narrative, you're not living in reality, because reality is the truth. And so I just try and spend a lot of my time like not consuming content. Yeah, I run a social media company, but I don't have social media on my phone. Why? Well, because I want to control the narrative in my own head by actually always being able to get back to the truth. And the only way that you can get back to the truth is if you don't always have this information input. As you said, there's information overload right now. And so I'd prefer to have time to like just explore. And when I say explore, it could be, literally exploring a city. But what I more so mean is just like getting bored, right? And because when you get bored, and I hate being bored, by the way, I hate it. And that's why I think it's good for me, because it means that I do stuff and then I find stuff and I discover stuff and I'll research stuff, and then I'll read different competing things, and I'll open it up on Gemini versus ChatGPT and realize they give me a totally different answer. And then I'll try and get like the sources, right? And so when you can then make time for that, which I think we all now can, everyone can, even if you're back to back with clients right now, you can create time for it, because the fact that you're back to back with clients shows that there is an extreme bottleneck in your business that must be fixed. It must be fixed. Because if the gap is that you have too many clients right now, then either your prices are too low or you need a more scalable way to serve that, right? So there's always a solution to every problem that comes up. And I think that's part of the game, is figuring out what that is.
It's quite an interesting perspective as well. And the fact that you're running an online business, a social media business, and teaching AI, actually you don't have the social media apps on your phone. So interesting. It's like pouring into that world. But then actually like in your own world, it's like deleted the apps. That's so interesting. What was the moment that you decided to delete the apps?
I know how it works. And I know that it's all just about grabbing the attention, hooking the attention, and getting you to want to keep scrolling. And so these apps are just built on dopamine, right? And so it's beautiful when you understand how to use it, because you can use that for your own benefit. You can use it to get leads. You can use it to also help people, right? But in the end, content is not what it used to be. If you go back and listen to some old podcasts, and a really good example of this is Stephen Bartlett. If you listen to his, I was probably one of his first listeners. I used to listen to every single one of those, like when he had that little turning the page audio effect, like when he was literally just doing it by himself. And they were so good. He would get into so much detail, right? The title would be something super boring, like how I did blah, blah, blah. Something so boring, right? It was just, I don't even remember. But now if you look at the titles and the intros, it's like super dramatized, right? Like that's the game now. And that's okay. But you have to understand, like, that's the game. So everything's like super packaged. And so what's being done nowadays is content is top of the funnel. So when I say top of the funnel, it's to get reach and it's to get attention. And so then you can, once you've got that reach and attention, you can do with it as you will, right? Like, I'm not going to tell someone what they should do with that, but I have some thoughts, but that's a conversation for another day. And so I think the thing is now, because content is no longer what it used to be, it's not really valuable. It's just not. Like, for the most part, okay, there's some conversations that are great, and I like listening to really long podcasts sometimes, depending upon whose show it's on, and then also who the guest is, because you can decide for yourself if you think that person is actually having like a really good, like, honest conversation on that, or is it censored? Okay, so like Tim Ferriss is a really good example of someone who I think is doing it really well, but that's obviously come at a cost to him because his views are terrible compared to other people. But
yeah, I was going to say, do you think there's a space for even more authenticity in content now?
I mean, everything goes in cycles, right? So just like how a few years ago, the whole thing in the online space was you want to sell a group coaching program for a high ticket price point with a sales team. Low ticket is getting back in the game right now. Okay. And then what's going to happen is we're going to start seeing that more people start doing webinars again, and then they'll stop doing webinars, go back for a sales team. It just goes always, everything goes in cycles. So does the economy, right? so do the markets. And so right now, I think it will swing back that way. But my point back to your initial question is like, why don't I have social media on my phone, even though I'm basically working in this space? Well, the reason being is because I understand that what everybody else is trying to do is get my attention. That's all they're trying to do. And that's what we see on the algorithm. So if I want actual content, right? Candidly, like I think the way to get the actual content, you pay for it. That's my solution. So I don't waste energy there. I don't waste time there. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes watching one YouTube video to get one sentence that I need help with, right? It's just not how I'm doing it. I'd rather just pay for the course, okay, pay for the information, get exactly what I need, but also take that with a grain of salt. Like we were speaking earlier, like I've reached this point now where it's kind of hard to know what to actually believe, because some people have drank so much of their own Kool-Aid that they believe like this is the right strategy, that this is the only way that you can do it, right? But it may not be the truth. For example, like people told me for years, I can't scale my business organically. I need to run ads, right? But I've never seen that to be true, because I realized like many times I was making more profit than them. So if you know that social media is like the thing whereby people want to get attention from there, then you have to decide, do you want to be involved with that, or do you want to use that and be the one creating the content? I just decided I want to be creating the content, not consuming it. And there was no one particular moment, but the major thing that I noticed is that as I was scrolling social media, I just began to feel more anxious. And I would just waste time on there, just opening it habitually. And then I actually put the podcast app right where I used to have my Instagram app, and I just noticed I would just randomly click it, just like habitually. I was like, whoa, that's really, really bad. So just delete, and now it doesn't take my time.
Yeah. So you pay for it now, as in like into masterminds, like we were talking about with Iman Ghazi. You've just come out of a mastermind with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like in that space, like what would you say would be the overarching like learns, even from like an event like that, where first of all, like how much did you pay for that mastermind? And then also, yeah, what was like your biggest learns just from like an overarching theme?
Don't know if I'm allowed to say like exactly how much, because obviously there's like a contract there, but it was more than 40K. Overarching lessons. So I think what's really cool about someone like Iman is like he's also kind of done things differently, and he hasn't necessarily followed the status quo of what other gurus like in the space are doing. Like he's kind of paved his own way. I was particularly interested to learn from him because he's just mastered the game of YouTube. Mastered it. And so the major things that I've learned like with regards to YouTube, I mean, it really is what we were kind of just talking about. Like there's certain packaging, right, that just works. So you'll see people do these videos on like, you know, how I became a millionaire, blah, 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 something like that. But they will then go and copy that video. But they won't have the nuance to understand why that video worked. And so what I've really learned from Iman is like a video like that is not good for me to do. I should never make a video like that. But in the past, I made the mistake of not realizing that I shouldn't make videos like that. Because my clients, like if they read that title, it would actually disqualify my best client. Why? Because my best possible clients, they're probably already millionaires. So it's very interesting. So if you're making content like that, you need to actually understand like that if it's about how I became, I don't know, how I made $10,000 as an example, okay? Well, naturally, the people that are going to watch that video, you're going to get loads of them. Why? Because it's a thing that a lot of people want to do. But at the same time, it's going to get people that are not already making $10,000. So it was very interesting. Like I made a video about, you know, why I'm shutting down my 100K per month coaching business or something like that. And it was so interesting. Like I started getting really sophisticated people reach out to me. Really sophisticated, like very successful people. And I was like thinking, why did that happen? And then I realized, oh, it's because of the title of the video, right? It's because they're already making that amount or more. And they were curious, like why I was doing that, you know? And so then if you think about like the best possible packaging, as Iman would like talk about, he's always just trying to figure out like what's already trending for his ideal client, how can he package his information into that. And the game of the YouTube is largely about just following those packaging rules. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so interesting. It's like actually, yeah, like leading even with the titles, everything you're doing to who you actually want, rather than just going for like masses just because it's going to get you a load of views.
100%. And so that was the thing that he told me that I was making the mistake of, is like I would make videos that work, because I'd hired YouTube consultants before. And this is again why I'm like saying, you've got to take it all with a grain of salt, because they had been people who'd had like B2C businesses, business to consumer. Like I'm in a business to business sense. Like my clients are entrepreneurs, and so they run their own business. They do their own business full time. They're not like side hustlers. So the previous consultants, they really knew what they were doing with YouTube, but they didn't understand my market, which is that like, no, my clients aren't watching like laziest ways to make money online videos. Even though that's in the make money space, no, but like I'm not necessarily in the make money space. Like I'm in the scaling business space, and it's actually very, very different, even though for someone from the outside it might seem the same, because my audience has a different problem, right? And I'm not going to be getting millions of views on my videos. It's impossible. There's just not that many people in the world who can watch my content. It's very like, how many consultants and coaches are there who are already making 250K per year, right? There's not that many. And so if you actually look, like even if I get 50% market share on my video views, right, I don't even know how many that would be, but it certainly wouldn't be like tens of millions.
Yeah, so interesting. And like, how have you found like the game? Because back in the day when you were doing more like podcasting, you had people like Grant Cardone on your podcast, right? Dean Graziosi and Ed Miler as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am curious, like back then, like how did you go about taking those steps to interview people like that and you create those connections and relationships?
Whew, that's a long time ago. So I was always going to events. Always. Like I would fly around the world to go to events, to connect with people and to chat. And so it's like when I was 16, I read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I read like 2 pages of it and I thought it was really stupid. So I put it down. So I didn't really read it back then. But then I think I was 19 and I actually, I listened to the whole audiobook, and I thought this one concept of like, always ask, this is what I took from it. I don't even know if this is accurate. This is like 9 years ago now, but it said like, always ask people questions about themselves. And so I just started doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
And I started just and I would call them by their name. And so I would always just like call them by their name and ask them questions about themselves. And it really took me far, because I would probably be the only one who wasn't talking about myself. Like I would ask them so much about themselves and their business and what they did and how they did it. And I learned so much from that. And so then I'd be at these masterminds in America, and then I'd post about it on social media, and then that person would reshare it. And I think I just built up like a lot of goodwill. And so then I decided to launch a podcast, and I had like a couple of guests on. And I forget who even were the first people, maybe like Craig Ballantyne, something like that. And then I would use that to like ladder up to the next person. So I'd say to someone, oh yeah, like I saw that you're also following Craig. I interviewed him and it was really successful. We got a lot of views. Would you be, I think I said like, would you be opposed to me interviewing you, Craig? And so then I was able to, like interview a bunch of these guys. And then eventually I don't know, I just found that it wasn't necessarily serving me anymore after a certain point, because I used it to build connections, and then I built the connections that I needed to build. And then from there, I don't know, I just kind of stopped doing it. But I did it for quite a long time. It was great. I'm super glad that I did those podcasts. And I think it can be one of the best ways to increase your authority when you're interviewing other authority figures in your space, because then you get a photo of them. Like, that's actually how I think I was able to speak on the same stage with like Gary Vee, Alex Hormozy, right? Because I had previously interviewed people who like were in their same kind of circles. And so the game, though, I think on podcasting has changed a lot, because I think now there's so many podcasts.
Yeah.
Back then when I did it, there was just so few. And I was also very, very young. So I could use that as my advantage, right? That I was like maybe like 21 or something when I was doing it. Whereas now it's not so appealing. Like, yeah, I'm 28. Cool. Random age.
There's so many golden nuggets in there, though. I mean, and that's quite overlooked in the sense of actually just being curious and asking questions and finding out about people. It's like, make someone feel special, right? It's like you. And also, if you're naturally curious, it comes across if he's authentic too, right?
Yeah, like it's taken me so far. And I think what's really cool is that when you make those connections initially, that like they stay.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you just connect with someone and then they forget you. If you like are actually asking them different kind of question than what somebody usually does. Like, you remember them. Like, like even Iman, right? This is a great example. I met Iman 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was at a Gymshark meetup because I was sponsored by Gymshark, and he was there with his camera, like filming. And he was just so curious. Oh my God, he was like 15, right? And I remember saying to him, you're going to be very successful one day. I literally said that to him. And he asked me so much stuff, like, how did you, because he, I think, was trying to get to be a Gymshark athlete back then, which is so funny. Now he could probably like invest in that company, right? And you know, look, all these years later, right, I remembered him. I followed him. I kept consuming some of his content because I thought he was very interesting. And then I paid him a lot of money.
There you go. Yeah, it's like the connection. You never know, like some of them flourish and some of them not. And it's
100%.
Like, yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah, because it's like you had that phase in your time where it's almost like that's foundational work as well that you were building there with the connections. So yeah, I was just curious, like what went into actually building that out. So I think that actually like attending events, getting yourself out there, actually making those connections, like, and then they've now flourished and they've built the foundation to what you do. And the other day we were chatting and you were sharing how actually like going to events and traveling around the world and all of that is like not as much of a priority now. It's more actually like to have bases, and it's like interesting how there's different phases as well in life, right?
100%. And one other thing that I did that for anyone who's looking to like improve their network, I would recommend doing this. So I kept a spreadsheet of everybody that I met that I thought was interesting, and I always tried to get their phone number. So then I put it on there and potentially even their email, and then I would follow up with them and I would tell them, hey, great to meet you. Whenever I meet someone, I take a selfie with them, and then I put it in the group chat, or sorry, just the chat. And then I basically say, like, you know, we met, we spoke about this, and then if there's anything that I can do to help you, just let me know. And then oftentimes I would take a couple of notes of like what they were looking to do, because I would have like the conversation with them. What are your goals? Like, what are you working towards? Like, oh, is there any connections? Do you need anything that you need there? And obviously I didn't start doing this straight away, but a few years into all this networking, I started keeping this list. And it's crazy because then a couple years later, I started running these basically like launch campaigns, like influencer campaigns, right? Like I would get some deals with some certain brands and I would run these launches, and then I would be able to get this budget, and then I'd like contact them, and if it was a relevant fit for them, I would be able to like pay them for this promotions and stuff like that. And so that was pretty cool, but that wasn't the major reason. The major reason was because then if I did know someone who was a beneficial person to them, then like I would connect them. And so another example of this, oh man, I've got so many examples, but like I one time somehow Russell Brunson, something, I forget, but then they invited me to their mastermind, right? Like in May in Mexico, right? And I just had to pay for the hotel, like, which was still very expensive, but I didn't have to like join the mastermind to go to that because I'd done something there. I forget even what it was now, but like those are the examples of things which are like super cool, because then from that event, I then met a bunch of other people. Like one of them now, I'm helping him with his social media. He's become a really good client for me. And then another one is really helping me with these like online events that I'm running, right? This guy does like $30 million per year with his coaching business. And like, he just made me realize how, yeah, like there was a whole thing that I was not doing when it came to like retaining my clients on the back end that since then has resulted in more than $1 million in profit per year for my business, just from existing clients. And that was just from this one thing I did ages ago that was like beneficial for Russell.
Awesome. Yeah, and it just shows that goodwill. It's like comes around like karma. It's like it comes back around. It's like if you just keep giving and giving and giving, it's like that law of reciprocity as it comes back.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like we're tying this together with the AIs, and now you felt like you were at a moment in time for you where you wanted to create more space and time for what is truly matters for you. Like I'm curious when the business started to slow down and create, as in like not slow down in profit, but just slow down with the amount of time it takes for you to be in it. Like, did you have to navigate any challenges inside of yourself through that? And what was coming up for you? What was arising?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very easy for your self-worth to be connected to your revenue, even though it may not be connected to the profit, right? Like I've met so many people in my time who, you know, they'll be making like 800K per month, okay? Not per year, no, per month. And to their name, they'll have less than $500,000, right? And so they're working all the time, right? Like they don't have like time for a relationship. They don't even have time to go to the gym. So they get in bad health, and they get stressed and anxious and heart palpitations and all these types of problems. And you have to just ask yourself, like, why am I doing this?
What
Why?
came up for you when you asked that question?
Well, for me, I didn't have necessarily those same problems. The problem that I had, which was very different actually, like I noticed that my revenue would go down and then I would feel like, oh my God, like I'm a failure because my revenue's going down, but my profit was staying the same, or even sometimes slightly up, sometimes slightly down, right? Like anyone who says like, I make X amount per month, like it's just, there's always variance, always, like always, unless there's something really weird going on. And so I would notice like, some months, right? Like the revenue would be maybe like half of what it had previously been, but profit would be relatively the same. And I just felt super bad about myself. And then it was interesting though, because I would also like be working the same amount, even though I didn't need to, or I was making busy work for myself. It's like, when you go to the gym and you're training and you're like done, like you just done, but then you do another set and sometimes you injure yourself or you just like exhaust yourself, like they call it junk reps, okay, in the gym. And I think in business, like we have junk reps like for work. And so I think so many people, myself included, like you get into this state where you're just doing work for work's sake. It's kind of like how you scroll on social media just for the sake of it, right? But why? And so you have to retrain yourself. Really like retrain the way that you operate. And so for me, really the last 2 years has been like a retraining process of how I work and being okay with like not having these quick questions popping up and actually allowing myself just like, for example, like the last few hours. Oh wait, no, that was yesterday. Like yesterday, for example, like for I think it was like 5 hours, I was just like wandering around doing nothing. And so then after that, I went and saw my friend, and like I was just like speaking to her, like catching up so quick and fast. And I'm like, why am I speaking so fast right now? I just need to chill out.
Yeah.
So it's still a habitual thing. And so I again, Tim Ferriss has a really good concept on this, which is basically like take these mini retirements every couple months, right? If you can. And so like, I'm trying to figure out if I would be okay doing this, because could I go somewhere without my laptop? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out like how I can push the boundaries a bit, because in the end, I don't need it, but I seem to like be desperate to get on my laptop.
Yeah, it's
Do
interesting.
you have that?
Yeah, so like it for sure. Like, and I also notice this pattern a lot with like people I work with as well with clients. It's like almost say when they're just in this zone where it's like work, and sometimes it can be from a place of avoidance as well.
Yeah, totally.
Of like there may be something else in their life which it feels safer to pour their energy and time into work than it would to actually show up in a different area of their life. Maybe it's like an intimate relationship. And then actually like maybe there's certain conversations or things that need to be had to make that relationship good, but that feels really unsafe and scary. So it's like, hey, if I just pour my attention and time here, plus like start to see results, and then also like the results become more addictive, it's like can really see how that cycle starts to build. So that's why I was really curious, because yeah, I think it's awesome the fact that you've now built this life where you can just like walk around for like 5 hours and be in that space. And I was just really actually just curious to be like, what was that journey like? Because going from a period where I've noticed you had a time where you had like 47 employees and was super busy and like working loads and loads, like to then being at a place where you can walk around for 5 hours and like be a bit more flowy and chill. And like I think that's a huge progress, like take away a revenue in a business, but actually just inside of self to have that transition in self is a real like personal development as well for an entrepreneur.
Well, it's so funny though, because whenever I tell people, like for some reason it will come up. Maybe I'm in a conversation with a few people and someone will ask me like, oh, like why did you go from 47 people down to 4? And the other person will be like, oh my God, you had 47 employees? Like that's crazy, like that's amazing. And you get like a pat on the back for having all of these stuff. But like if you think about it, in business, why do you need people? Right? You need them to do stuff, okay? Because then you need to get to an outcome. But you can achieve the same outcome via systems, via automations, via like the robots, right? As we call it. And some people don't like that reality. Okay, they don't like it. Like robots are going to replace us. But in the end, for me, okay, as the business owner, oh my God, it's such a better life. It's such a better life because I would have to have all these calls all the time, like Zoom. I was living in Dubai at the time, right? So for me, it would be like 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. And I'm not a night person. I'm a morning person. So then I would be like waking up late. I would feel lazy. It would be like this downward spiral because I was essentially just like living to fuel the business. Okay. And it was no fun. I think for me though, it's like the major thing that I've noticed, and that I would encourage anyone to try and create some space for yourself, because you begin to realize like, what are those vices? What are those habits that you fall back to that are maybe coping mechanisms for something else?
Yeah.
Okay. And so for me, like, it's really that I think my self-worth was so built on the fact that I would get so much praise for my business. Like, I had it before when I was in the fitness industry. Like, I would always be shredded. I would be like ripped. I would have abs, like proper like six pack. And like my self-worth would be like on my abs or something.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then I had the same thing like with my business and my number of stuff. But in the end, that's not really like where you personally where you give value. You know, it's more built on who you are as a person, right? And like how you, like, for example, if you look in yourself in the mirror, right, and you're like, ask yourself like, why am I proud of myself today? I think you should be able to have an answer for that. That isn't just your business. That isn't just your training, right? It's like, no, like today, for example, like I tipped the woman who was like helping me park my car like an extra $20, right? And she was like so happy, so grateful, because that's a lot of money here, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just so interesting. Like I saw like, I forget who made these studies, but there were some studies in some university in like California or something, whereby gratitude isn't like felt when you say like, I'm so grateful for this, I'm so grateful for that. It's like if someone tells you, wow, you just made my day, like that was such an amazing thing that you did, like this really helped me with that, like you feel gratitude through helping people, right? And so it sounds like a little, you know, whatever. And I think a lot of people virtue signal, whether like, oh, I just run my business for impact or whatever. But candidly, like, I think you need some type of purpose that's bigger than just making some cash. And making cash is great, don't get me wrong, like it can change your life, but there needs to be some bigger purpose behind it. And so for me, like right now, it's always been freedom and fulfillment, right? Freedom and fulfillment. I want to empower other people to create a life of freedom and have fulfillment while doing it.
Yeah.
But I think along the way, like at least for me, and I'm sure many people can relate, you can lose sight of that. You can lose sight of like why you're doing it, right? And so I think that there were many, many years, especially when I was in Dubai, I kind of lost sight of that. And I really wish that hadn't have happened, because I think I was just getting myself in this like big old like hustle mode all the time.
Yeah. And I think it's very dependent too on, because you're going back to the question, it's really dependent on what phase someone's in as well. It's like there was a period of time where actually like work did take over, like but actually that period built a foundation to something which is still, you know, like an engine, a vehicle, like a financial engine now, which is incredible.
True.
So it's like that was a period which was more like external freedom, but then at some point you get to a point where actually like fuck, like my relationships, like a relationship that broke down, like my relationship with my family wasn't as close, you know, all of these things started to be, I was like actually like inside of self I was nowhere near like where I wanted to be internally. So then it kind of like switched into a internal freedom, like where there's like these two sides. To someone who maybe like they actually haven't got that external freedom yet, there's a period that you can go through, but then it's just quite an interesting point, you know, with when it comes to where someone's at. And I love what you shared there as well about making your purpose bigger than yourself. It's like, you know, if even in like religion, when religion's like, if they say like so much pain is when you're just thinking about yourself, like when you get in service of others, which actually business is a vehicle, which yes, as a founder, as a CEO, you can make your life amazing, but also all of the people who are attached to you, like that king or queen energy, where it's like we've got like a kingdom here. It's like you don't win on your own. It's like if we can build people up and help them grow and thrive, it's like then you're in service. And that mindset's very different to like, hey, this is just about me, which is easy to get into that, like a self-worth attached to business. It's quite an interesting perspective.
Yeah, well, it's also when you mentioned that you had a season where you were just like working a lot, right? Like it's okay to do that and it's necessary in business. But I think it comes down to the energy in which you're doing it from.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of people who are doing it from a place of like proving other people wrong, or there's some underlying negative energy there. And in my opinion, that underlying negative energy is when you attract bad things. And again, bad is defined differently by different people. But when you're doing it from a place of like curiosity, because here's the thing, I think we're driven either by passion or by pain. And so if you're driven by pain, then naturally you can expect that the situation that you end up in is going to feel rather empty when you achieve it. Whereas when you're driven by passion, you tend to do things that are a bit more helping others. And then when you get there, you feel proud. And so I'm constantly now trying to optimize for, just like exploring my curiosities and doing things from a sense of passion rather than some type of pain. And sometimes we don't know where that pain has come from. And I think a lot of people spend a lot of time like trying to figure that out rather than trying to change their actions. And so if you can just really change your actions and also begin to work towards finding something that is more passion driven for you, I do think you end up in a position that is, just feels better, right? And I know that for myself as well, but the pain that I was always like running away from, like, it's super interesting. I just found that it was really like I was seeing other people, and it was all built on that narrative that we were talking about earlier. It wasn't reality. And so I was seeing them live this narrative, like this really successful lifestyle. So I thought like, oh, I need to be as good as them, right? So it's coming from like my self-esteem felt low. I felt like low self-esteem because I was like, oh, I'm not as good as them. But again, I was taking actions based upon a false reality. And so this is why now I kind of just like to live in the real world rather than just like, listen to what other people are always saying, because you just don't know the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, you just know your own truth.
100%. Or you have to like dig deeper sometimes. Because I've found out a lot of stuff where a lot of people who you think are very, very, very successful, and they're not. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And like with the pain thing, you said about like either pain or passion, right? So you're either driven by one or the other. And so I'm curious, like, have you had a time in your journey where you realized that it was more pain driven? And also, like, how did you go about navigating that? I know there was like a switch in action you were saying to like move into passion, but also like what, inner work or things did you navigate in order to like integrate whatever needed to be integrated, of why it was coming from more of a pain driven place?
Yeah, so I definitely scaled too quickly at one point, and it was really hard for me to manage. And I had this innate sense, I'm a bad leader. Like, that's what I would tell myself all the time. I'm a bad leader. My team hate me. Like, it wasn't reality again, but it was the narrative in my head. And so I'd tell myself that story, and then what would end up happening is like I would just maybe send too many Slack messages, right? And somebody would quit. So it would reinforce what I thought was true. And I look back at it now, and I sometimes read those Slack conversations, and it really wasn't that bad. Yeah, there was a couple of people who, work for me, and maybe the communication was very unclear, but it really wasn't like anything crazy. But the major thing was that because I scaled too quickly, I just hated my business. I don't know, I just hated it. Like, it's like all those questions that people have, and there's so many clients and all these tasks that were always going on. Where did that come from? Again, I think it's because I thought that I needed to be somewhere that was simply unachievable. It's like my definition of where I should be was a definition of perfection that couldn't be achieved.
Yeah.
So I was trying to chase an ideal that was impossible to hit. I literally thought that there were other people who had scaled to a certain level in their business, who are, getting these New York Times best-selling books, and maybe they were making like $1 million in profit a month. Dude, like the number of people that make $1 million in profit a month in this industry, you could probably count on, just a couple hands, right? It's just not, it is very unrealistic unless you've got a massive organic audience. And so, or you have a kind of a different business model, which is maybe like traditional education or something along those lines. But I digress. So for me, the way that I like changed that is really, I had to just get real. Just get real. It's like, I hear it all the time, people on social media, like clients, when they're starting with me for social media, they'll say something like, oh, but I don't like that type of content. It doesn't sound like me. And I'm like, okay, sounding like you, how's those results been? They're like, well, I don't have results, or the results are inconsistent. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at what actually works, because what works may not sound just like you, because there are certain frameworks that are proven to convert on social media that if you follow them and put your knowledge into those frameworks, they're going to get results. But it doesn't sound like you, because you're very smart, you're intelligent, you know your stuff, and that is not what converts on social media. Okay, that may be good for your email list, that may be good for your clients, but the content that we put out on social media to get leads and attention isn't the same stuff as the really in-depth stuff that you know, right? So again, it's like that situation of just living with what's true versus like living on this story.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point around the actual ideal of like also what I was also hearing there, like underneath it was defining what your success is, like what is the definition of your own success, like rather than an ideal of someone that you're following online who's probably saying something to grab attention or to get you into their funnel and, you know, all of this, and then believing that that's actually their reality. It's almost like taking these steps back and being like, what would an amazing life look like for me?
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
what would success truly look like? Like, what does even the word success, what does that actually mean to me?
Because if you look at just society in general, right? Like, what are we told? You know, go uni, go get this bank job, whatever, like at least for me. And then, you know, you retire maybe at like age 60, right? And then you go traveling. But in the end, any of these like ideals and these definitions of success that we so hear, where do they come from, right? They also come from like generalized statements. And so people think it's super weird, right? That like probably for you as well, like you always travel, right? So do I. It's like always traveling, okay? Well, you just work from anywhere you want. Yeah, cool. And like if I want to not work for a week, I won't. I'll just tell, you know, if I need to take a call, schedule it for in like 10 days, right? So it's just people just can't get that around their head. And so then it also comes, I mean, in many areas, right? Like I think even just with how my family, they're always like, are you going to settle down? I'm like, what do you mean settle down? Like, what does that mean to you? And then for them, it means something, which for me, it means something completely different. And so then it's like, okay, well, we haven't even got the same definition of terms here. And so we've got to define the terms. So then if we're going to define the term success, I mean, well, okay, you define it, I define it, they define it. We all will have a different definition, and that's okay. Right? But again, it doesn't just because like somebody else wants to like, I heard someone say the other day that they will only be happy when they've made $100 million liquid. And I was just like thinking like, this is for me at least. Okay, fine for you. If as long as you're happy as you're doing that. But what I always think is really interesting is like when I'm hearing these people do these talks at these events and stuff, you know, where they have like a Freudian slip. So for example, like a Freudian slip is, you know, they'll kind of say something and it really highlights what they were thinking in their head, but they accidentally said it out loud. So I was like, I'm not going to name any names, but I saw someone do a talk and they were like, yeah, like my whole team fucking hates their job and they'd probably be better off at another company. And they were like, oh, well, actually, like they love their job, but like, and it's like,
Yeah.
and then it's also like, I heard somebody else say like, yeah, I just hate every day. And then they would like pause for a second, but like, oh yeah. But it's like, it's really sad. Like, I find that really freaking sad because in the end, if you are like being an authority figure to people from the outside on social media and you're like telling these rules to live by, you know, you must do this to be successful. You need to do that. Like, this is what makes money. But then if you know deep inside as you look in the mirror like that you're not happy, I think it's shameful that these people are making content on how to live. Because if they're not happy, like again, like we see a lot of people on social who'll say that you need to work like 18 hours a day, you know, and you should never ever socialize and all you should do is work so that you can have $1 million. But it's like, but why though? Maybe that's not the right thing to do. I don't know.
So interesting.
Take it with a grain of salt. That's what I say.
Yeah, and find your own definition. And actually, like, because you've mentioned it a few times about like looking in the mirror. Like every time you say it, it takes me back to this moment because there was a moment where someone shared that with me of like actually an exercise where you do like look in the mirror and like actually eye gauge yourself. It sounds a bit like odd,
No, I get it. Yeah, it's very powerful.
but it's unbelievably powerful. Anyone who's listening who hasn't done it, I'd recommend like going to finding a mirror and actually just looking and staring in a mirror and eye gazing yourself for like a period of time and just notice what comes up inside. Honestly, I remember it so clearly. It was like seeing myself for the first time.
Wow.
You know, of like actually like looking and seeing inside of self for like the first time and being like, wow, like it brought so many different emotions up.
Interesting. What came up for you?
It was really deep. Like I'm just looking and being like, fuck, I've never actually like noticed like these different things on my skin or like things showing up. And then even on a deeper level, like looking into my own eyes.
Yeah.
It was almost like looking into own soul, like behind the skin. It was like all of these, different or maybe like an element of true like shame as well, which arose just when I like looked, and then I kind of just was there with it and just felt it deeper, and then that kind of like just started to ease off, and then there was like just different layers started to unfold. It's really fascinating. Like I'd highly recommend it if someone wants to just was like they're on that self discovery journey, and even just look in the mirror and taking a moment, 30 seconds, a minute, and just looking yourself in the eyes. So powerful.
Yeah, because it's how you, like, for me, I'm always thinking, okay, when I'm sitting by myself, what do I think about myself? That's what I'm trying to just get to. And then, am I proud of how I showed up? Like, do I feel like I could have done, like, here's something that I've been doing every day for, I can't even tell you how many years. Like, in the morning, I just write down, like, I will be present. I will this. And then I put like a little, box out of 10. And then I rank myself in the evening.
Nice.
And then I've noticed, like, in times where maybe previously, right, when I would scroll social media, I would notice like my being present would go down. My being loving would go down. My like doing good work would go down, like certain things. So then you can kind of get an idea of, okay, when you do certain things, then certain things go down. When you do other things, like for me, when I meditate every day, which I love to do, then certain things go up. And there just tends to be like these correlations. And then to me, it's like, okay, well, these are the areas that I want to be 10 out of 10 every day. So then I can just kind of spot and see. I'm very logical. Like I can then spot and see which things, like I did that, it made that go worse. I did that, it made that go better. Generally, which things make me go towards 10 on all areas. And then I just try and do more of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's very simple, but most people probably can't stick to doing that every day. But I'm telling you, like, if you can, you just think about 10 to 15 different areas of your life where you want to be, like, in your terms, like a 10 out of 10, right? And so for me, a major one was like being calm, being present, being patient, right? Because those were 3 things, as an example, that I was like previously not particularly good at. And then I started to, identify those things that would make me get worse on them. And I kind of just stopped doing those things. It can quite literally be as simple as that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm curious, like what meditation practice do you do?
So I don't have like a, I don't even know all the words that they are for meditation. I actually
It's just about your own process.
No, I like to do guided meditation personally. Yeah, I have really tried. I want to go and do like a yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
And then because I know most of them, like especially in Bali, they're accompanied with some meditation, like real meditation. I was also thinking to do like a 10-day silent retreat.
Oh yeah,
I want
that's
to
on the list.
maybe they do them here as well. Like my friend just got back from one.
Wow.
He said it was amazing. But no, I like to do just a guided meditation, and then I also like to do self-hypnosis. Have you tried it?
I've actually not self-hypnosis. I've done it like externally with someone else, but yeah, not self-hypnosis, no.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of similar to doing it with somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So like there's a couple different people like Joseph Clough, and then this other guy, forgot his name, Adam Cox. They have really good like podcasts with hypnosis tracks on there. So either I'll do a meditation or a hypnosis every morning first thing, and then sometimes in the evening, like I like to do like where you stare in the candle and you just like sit there and then you just kind of like breathe. Then I do find that one hard though. I still need to do that more of
Do
that.
you find the light like flickers sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it so relaxing though.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So, and also it makes me like get sleepy somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, like just drops things down. I've got a recommendation if you want to go to, I did yoga teacher training in India, in Rishikesh.
Oh, in India?
Yeah.
Oh, you did it?
Yeah, in Rishikesh. I did.
Where is that?
It's basically like the yoga, they call it like the yoga capital of the world, but it's in just on the base of the Himalayas.
Great. Oh, I would love to do that.
A really cool place. And then there's a place called Dharamkot, which is a bit further up from that, like above a place called Dharamshala. All the places are like just big names, right?
Yeah, right.
But there was this like Buddhist monastery, and it was right like up the hill, and it's like going into a portal where it just felt like the energy just shifted, and there's like loads of like Buddhists like going around in there, like monks, and they're like monk. Amazing experience. I'd highly recommend. Yeah, the India was so cool.
But was India not crazy? Was it good or was it crazy?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But like very different because you got cows on the road and like you're like driving along in a little tuk-tuk and then a cow will be on the road and they're sacred, so you're not allowed to like move them off and stuff. It's like they've got like
True.
yeah. So yeah, digress, but that was is awesome.
I love that recommendation. I'm actually super down to do that next year.
Yeah,
that sounds sick.
And then the silent retreat as well is like,
have you done
on the list? Nah, I'd love to.
on
10-day silent retreat.
They literally, you're leaving here, but they literally had like this one here is meant to be one of the best in the world. I don't know why. Apparently it's beautiful. Yeah,
so cool, awesome.
I really want to do the yoga teacher training though, so I'll take you up on that.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And this is where I suppose like to spin it back with even like a business and with AI, it's like freeing up a time so you can actually live a life of whatever success looks like to you.
Yeah.
And I just circling back of like all that you've shared, I think was so awesome in the fact that you create this time, like be able to process whatever arises when actually you maybe not as much time doing this thing, and then suddenly it's like, right, I've got a life to live. How do I actually want to live it? Not how someone else wants to live it, but how do I want to live it?
Yeah, and like
so cool.
If a year ago, like I literally used to hear people say like, I'm gonna go do yoga teacher training. And I'm like, why do you want to be a yoga teacher? And they're like, no. I would literally be like, this is so stupid. And I noticed I had a lot of like judgment towards other people for like not working, right?
Yeah.
And that came from just me judging myself, of course. And so it's been very, very interesting to kind of watch my own opinions change over the last couple of years, because especially the last year, especially since Bali, everyone's making this banter, like, you find yourself in Bali. No, it's really funny for me to say this, but I really think it's true. And I spent 4 months there, Yeah, like, I just wouldn't understand, like, why would you go and learn tango? Yeah. Or why would you go and do, like, Spanish classes? I would just feel like this is such a waste of time, right? And I vividly remember, like, thinking in my head as people would tell me these things, like, that's a waste of time. But it was just how I saw myself, right? Yeah. And in the end, like, the judgments that we have on others are just the judgments that we have on ourselves.
So true. Yeah, that's awesome. So at this point of the show, I've like loved the conversations. So thanks so much, Lauren. It's been epic. Yeah. Like so much value in there, and then also just like the authenticity that's come out as well. It's been awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. And you asked really good questions as well. Like, I think it's cool. You can definitely tell when someone's like done so much work on themselves, like the level of question that they're willing to ask. It shows so much, like whenever you're doing a podcast. So kudos for you. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah. And at this point, we also have the vault section.
The vault?
Yeah, the vault. You ready for a game?
I'm ready for a game.
Yeah.
I'm always ready for a game. Okay.
Awesome. So yeah, in the vault, each guest will leave a message, and then the message goes into the vault, and then this building every episode. So you also have a message which goes into the vault, which could be chosen next episode or down the line. Let's see.
Okay, let's see. I'm ready. Share one real failure of yours and be honest about whether you truly learned something to add growth or rather swept it under the carpet. From Ryan Stramrud.
Yeah, so he does like extreme swimming. He's actually swum in Antarctica. He swam a mile, was the first person to swim a mile in Antarctica in -1 degree water.
A mile?
Yeah.
How long did that take?
He did it in 33 minutes, if I believe. But in -1, he said when he got out, he got pulled out, and then he was literally just like, yeah, just completely shut down. But yeah, incredible. He's from Cape Town.
I don't even think I could spend 30 seconds in that. So what I used to do is if I had something in my business that wasn't working that I needed to solve, I would hire someone. Because I always heard this saying, like, you should basically find the best people, hire them, pay them a lot of money for them to figure out the outcome. I thought that was quite like interesting advice, so I used to implement it. And what it ended up leaving me with was like a bunch of problems and like very expensive salaries to pay, because I didn't take ownership over the problem myself. So some examples, I won't share too much, but I paid some very expensive agencies to like build certain things for me and do certain things for me. And I realized only now, like many, many years later, the reason I would like just pay away those problems is because I didn't want to take ownership over figuring it out. And so the major lesson that I got from that was, yes, okay, I definitely lost a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of stress. Like there was extreme amounts of stress that went into those things because some of these characters were like very challenging people to work with. I realized like that if I just take complete ownership over something, right, everything, realize like anybody I hire, if they mess up, it's my fault, then I'm going to get to a better outcome and I'm going to figure out a better way to do it. And I'm obviously not always going to be right, but even if I do something that's wrong, I learn. And it's better than just like paying someone to figure it out and you have no idea what goes into it. So now my solution is not to hire more people, no. It's to actually just sit there with the pain of the problem and to try and figure out a way to do it. That's how I've learned with AI how to do so many things. Because so many problems that I previously would have like paid an agency to fix for me, I've just sat there knowing nothing, right? And research my way to figure out a solution. And some people would say that that's stupid, right? That I should be focusing on like higher level things as a business owner. But for me, it's been actually the greatest unlock because then I don't have all these like fixed costs that I need to pay every month for this agency to run this thing that I don't know how it works. And all these people on that team who I don't know what the hell they're doing. Instead, I figure it out and then I actually like, because I've taken ownership over it, then when I do it, it feels really good. Like it's like a challenge that I overcame. So that's one. I don't necessarily go into too many detail because like there's just been some like major screw ups I've made with these hires. But taking ownership.
That's awesome. And it's also opposite advice to what's shared, traditionally. And I like that because it's actually the fact that you're willing to sit there in the pain and the discomfort. And then on the other side of that, either like you delegate it after you've figured it out is what I'm hearing there, or it's just like something which you've created, like a landing page or like some marketing material that now you actually have the know-how of how to do it.
And it's usually not that complicated.
Yeah.
It's usually not that complicated at all.
Dropping like 10K to an agency to do it and you're like, oh, I was actually wasn't so bad.
100%. And then there's less sort of like connection points because every person you add on the team, right? Like the number of conversations that have to be had to communicate the information becomes like really big. So now it's easier. It's just less. And
awesome.
It's a better lifestyle in my opinion.
Awesome. All right, well, so thank you so much for coming on, Lauren. It's been
Thank you.
I've loved the conversation. It's been so good, and I just really appreciate like the amount of work that you've done on yourself as well, like in the fact that you've had these realizations inside of your business where you had a business that was 3 businesses that you scaled to 7 figures, but like there was periods where you were caught up in these businesses, and then you've kind of actually had these realizations along the way that life is. There's lots. It's like multifaceted. So you can have a great business.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I'm just laughing because like I think I didn't used to be multifaceted at all. I think I was like totally one-dimensional in business. Yeah, seriously, it's funny. Yeah.
So that's awesome. I mean, like anyone listening in, like there's so many golden nuggets in there. So really appreciate your journey and your willingness to share.
Yeah, well, look, I just want more people to not make the same mistakes that I did as well. Maybe just you don't have to take everything I say as gospel, right? Like. Go and live it and see what's true for you. I think that's the most important thing, like figuring out really what's true for you. And it's been a great chat. So thank you so much for having me.